All right. So Satya, great question. So what is NSB? NSB is National Science Bowl. It's a science trivia competition that is organized by the Department of Energy, and they have been doing it for many, many, many years. And there are two levels to it. So there is a regional and there is a national. The regional for us in the Pacific Northwest, they have the Pacific Northwest Regionals, which is attended by Oregon and Washington state schools. Usually, for the last many years that I have been part of it, they have always organized it at the University of Portland, and it is usually the first week of February or the last week of January every year. So it's the format of the science trivia is it is done in teams, and it is done in teams from within a particular school. So you cannot form your in private teams outside the school because the teams participate as schools. So they will show up as Pacific Cascade Middle School as a team. The
Mhm.
the competition is held annually every year, and the top one team, the champions from each region, they go to compete at the national level, which is happening in DC. So one of our teams, I coached a few teams, and I'm so thrilled that one of our teams is actually the regional champions this year, and they are so right now I'm training them for national, so it's really exciting.
Congratulations. That's
Oh,
good news. Because when we spoke, you were just telling me that you were training the kids. You never
yes, yes,
mentioned about so
yeah.
that's good news.
I thank you, thank you. It's
Do you
yeah,
mind sharing which school district is that?
sure. It is Evergreen Middle School,
The
um,
big one?
Lake Washington School District.
Washington. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good news.
yeah. And
Mhm.
last year my team was runners up. Um,
On the
so
regional level. Yeah.
at the regional level, and it doesn't matter. And this year in the high school level, we didn't make it to the top three. Our team was fifth in place. But the point is, it doesn't matter. What happens is through the course of, and it's such a fun competition, through the course of just learning this additional stuff, two things happen. They get excited about science, and it's really fun. And the second thing that will happen is this kind of starts to build up, right? So they're learning. They'll learn some in sixth grade, then in seventh, then in eighth. By the time they go to high school, or even like in eighth grade, especially I would say in high school, if they are taking AP courses or honors courses, those become extremely easy for these students to grasp and understand because they have already done the legwork. So the questions and the concepts that um, the National Science Bowl, like the trivia questions that expect from the students, there is a little gap or step up from what they will be exposed to in their regular school curriculum. But it is
Mhm.
nothing that the students cannot handle. And like this is the best time to start. I think starting in fall is a little late, I would say. But this is the best time to start. I'll tell you a little bit about the format of how it is held. I actually have a webinar that specifically for this. I'm happy to share that one as well. I kind of do it every year for parents to come and join, just an info session. So I'll share that as well. But I'll tell you the format of the of NSB. So I mentioned like each school takes a team, and you definitely need four. Four is the bare minimum number of students in a team, and five is the max. So when you take five teams, when the trivia is happening between the teams, they play it for 8 minutes. So 8 minutes, you have two teams, and it's always played one team v one team. So for 8 minutes when they're playing, it has to be four members. So let's say the five of us are on a team. So four of us are going to play the game against, let's say, IMS, and let's say I am the person who is sitting out for this round. I cannot switch spots within those 8 minutes. So within those 8 minutes, it will be Satya and everybody else. And then after those 8 minutes, there is a 2 minute break, a gap, water, breathe, whatever. And then there is another 8 minutes. And that's when I can come in and say, oh, I'm going to replace Annapurna. Annapurna can sit out. So if there are five teams, that's something, five members. So that's something that we have to manage as well. But either way, it works. Um, Usually, sometimes schools will insist that teams have five just as a contingency plan. Um, I have the ones that are the champions this year. They are four in a team, so I could go either way. I could It could be pros and cons for having four or five. I told you about five. It's a really helpful way to kind of if someone is getting tired towards the end of the day, you can always switch spots. You can always like that contingency is there if someone is that day is not feeling well. That's definitely there. I will tell you a little bit about the pros of having four in a team. I feel like four in a team is like um, there is that added responsibility that it's me. That's it. I have to work towards it. But teams have had success with five or four. That is absolutely irrelevant to how they perform. And then, so this is how the regionals happen. So they have four round robin where each team is paired with randomly one other team. So Pacific Cascade will play four matches in the morning until 12, four matches where they randomly play with any other. And these four matches, they absolutely play. Like there's no selection, nothing. Everybody plays these four matches. You get 2 points for a win, one for a draw, and zero for a loss. And then they stack rank the scores for all the teams. And I believe the top 20 move on to the next level, the double elimination round. So the double elimination round is a little tricky, but the format as they play, like for the students, it doesn't matter. When they walk into the room, it is always the same format, which is they play with the same team for 8 minutes, they take a break for 2 minutes, and then they play for 8 minutes. And the double elimination is these 10 teams, based on their ranking, they kind of go into two levels. So the top level, if you lose a game once, kind of move on to the next level. But you can still keep playing and still make it to the finals. You just play more games to
Make
stack
it
up
up.
those. Yeah, make it up. So then you play the final. There's a trophy and trophies for the winner, the first runners up, and the second runners up, but only the winners make it to the national. Now let's come to, I'm sure like those are also questions you have, like the content. So the content is divided between for middle school, and there is a website. I can send you the link. You can take a look. Just type of questions. For middle school, the subjects are physical science. Physical science is a mix of physics and chemistry questions. And then they have life science, which is nothing but biology. So they will have plants and animals. And then they have earth science. Earth science here is a little different from just geography. So it includes geology about the Earth. It includes about the space, a little bit of the stars, constellation, and solar system and everything. So that they call Earth science. Excuse me. Then there is math. Um, so we have physical science, life science, earth science, math, and energy. Yeah. They have to have the energy because it is organized by Department of Energy. So the energy questions are a little tricky because they actually cover a lot of chemistry questions, how things react and what energy is changing into what energy, chemical energy to physical energy. Like when, animals eat, it's mostly the food, the chemical energy is translating into mechanical energy or other things. So energy-based questions can also be related to uh, how do we absorb energy? Like, yeah, different forms of energy, biomass, nuclear energy, but like nothing that the students can't manage. So it's there. It's so energy is a little tricky because there is no particular book for energy. Like I think everything else is a set course, but I do have like lists and notes that students can read to get up to date with energy. Um, yeah, those are the different parts. Then let me tell you a little bit about, and after that I'll stop. I feel like this could be a lot of information, but this will again will repeat every single time. Students will get to practice. Let me tell you a little bit more. One more thing about the format. So the
Mm-hmm.
format is I told you about the round. So every match that they play, it's 8 minutes, 2 minutes, and 8 minutes. So for the 8 minutes, every time a question is asked, there are two types of questions. The first question is called a toss-up. Toss-up, I will also send you, I actually have a document for, I wrote down like I prepared slides and I have a document for this. So I'll send you guys that as well. I'll actually send, I don't have everybody's email, but I'll send Satya and then
I,
feel free
I
to.
will share all everyone's email address to you
Oh,
right
okay.
after.
Okay, awesome. So I'll send you the slides. It actually has all of this information. It also has some books recommendation that I feel students should start with. Now, there are a lot of books that, um, for example, I'll give you an example of Campbell biology and like high school level or like eighth grade level books. I never recommend that students should start with that. There are other books that I recommend that they start with. Those are very simple and uh, sometimes you will hear like some teachers might disagree, but I feel like if they get overwhelmed in the beginning, then they will not learn. So there are some simpler books that I like to start with, and then they kind of move on as they get familiarized with the concepts. But going back um, to how the questions are asked, there are two types of questions. They call it toss up, and then they call it bonus. So toss up is a buzzer round. So toss up is a quick question. You get 5 seconds to answer, and it's a buzzer round. So whoever presses the buzzer first gets a chance to answer that question, and that team gets a point. And then if the team has answered the toss-up question correctly, they get to they get the bonus question is asked to them. So they get the chance of answering the bonus question. If none of the team answers the toss-up, there is no bonus question. The bonus question just vanishes. So
Mhm.
if a team answers the toss-up, they get asked the bonus question. The beauty of the bonus question is, so for toss-up, they get 4 points. And for bonus question, if they're able to answer the bonus question, they get 10 points. The other advantage of the bonus question is they get 20 seconds, 20 seconds, which is quite a bit, like when you're like pressed for time, 20 seconds to work a solution, discuss with your team. As you can see, toss up is only 5 seconds, so there's barely any time to discuss. You either know it or you don't. And bonus questions is when they get to discuss, when they can discuss with their teammates. Um, yeah, and that's how they stack up the points. There are some other details, and the coaching involves giving them strategies, even during toss up, how they can um, like trust each other and lean on each other to really say, okay, uh, like like Satya can write on her, like they get scratch paper and she can write and she can like without talking. You're not allowed to talk in toss up because it's a buzzer round. So kind of that forms part of the coaching. I will stop now and I'll see if I'll give you a chance to ask me questions that I can answer.
So far, I'm good. Let's see what Annapurna and Mansi has to say.
Well, this is great information, actually. Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, it's okay. You go ahead. I'll ask my question later.
No, this is great information. Like, thank you, Priyanka, for this. I
Anytime.
am more curious on like if you're the classes, like how do you conduct? Like, do you conduct like a weekly classes or like a weekly once, weekly twice? what's your frequency and duration of the classes?
Right. So I have two types of classes. So I teach interdisciplinary science, which means I teach all the subjects. And then students come for like just foundational science. They just want to learn more and be prepared for class. So those are 1 hour weekly. But what I do for and that you can join anytime, and it's like one student joins in. For all my classes, you get like you can come and try out, but that's for individual student. Now, if you're joining as a team, and I know that you're joining as a team, I will keep your class completely separate unless there is another team I know, because the focus will be a little different and the time is also a little different. So usually the foundational classes are 1 hour weekly, and then they get monthly like additional 2 hours just to have fun. Like all my science classes, they get together. I'm actually conducting one this Sunday. So they get 2 hours of like just trivia practice, just to test their knowledge. But for like let's hypothetically, if like the whole team comes and joins, so it won't be 1 hour, it will be 1.5 hour, because 1 hour won't be enough to get everybody up to speed. But also, I would like to spend at least in the beginning a few classes practicing questions with them. So I usually, what I do when they start, I have 1 hour of content, and then I have half an hour of practicing some NSB questions. That way they get a feel of what is expected. And a lot of these uh, teams that they do well is a matter of practice as well, because the buzzer rounds are just so fast. And sometimes it's just a matter of like 2 milliseconds that makes a difference. So I press the buzzer and then Satya pressed it like 2 milliseconds before me, and those buzzers pick that up. And so she gets a chance to answer, although I knew the answer. So the way students build that muscle is by just practicing. So for a team that comes together, they usually get 90 minutes class weekly. And then what I do is, as we get closer to fall or like in November, I have these other teams that are also practicing. So then I get them together for a team practice. So it's a little different if you come in for as a group. But besides that, so for middle school, I don't print out materials. Besides the classroom lessons, um, they also get homework to read chapters from the books, and then materials. So I have my own notes where I write down things that kind of they should learn. So they get those in Google Classroom. They're supposed to read both and attempt practice quizzes. So usually they get a practice quiz every week. The practice quizzes are actually pretty, I wouldn't say straightforward, but I would say they're pretty short. So like I would say 20 questions, 20 to 22 questions. And all of them are either MCQs, multiple choice questions, or very short answer. Kind of, I keep it the same level at which like NSB questions are expected. So even if it's not multiple choice, if I'm just asking them to write down, it will be mechanical advantage. So just like very, very short answers. So that's what the program will include.
Got it.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, Priyanka, a quick question. So will all kids be trained in every subject, or every like each kid will have a forte subject? How would that work?
So I would say in the beginning, as they build up their knowledge, I actually encourage everyone to just learn everything. And then as
Perfect.
we get closer to November in the fall, then they can like pick up they can go deeper into each of their, so I can give them like separate chapters to, hey, you go deeper into this chapter, this chemistry, go deeper into that chapter. Um, and there's a reason why I encourage in the beginning everybody to learn everything, because all of these students, like, yes, NSB is definitely such a fun, great way to experience, interact with their peers and learn about science. But at the end of the day, all of the students need to actually learn everything for their school, for their thing. And if from the very beginning, foundational concepts, if they start to diversify just from the very beginning, I think it gets a little difficult for them. I mean, the purpose is lost, I would say. So
Yeah.
it's everything in the beginning, but then I will start to kind of direct them towards focus on focus subjects. The other thing, actually, it's a great question because the other thing, what happens is when they come and just start to experience this as a whole, usually they don't know what they would like to focus on, and most of the time, as a coach, to say, okay, you should be doing physics, is a mix of whether the student is even passionate about it. Some students don't care, so fine. And then some students will tell me, I can do anything except biology. And then some students will tell me, I don't care about it, but I really don't like to learn geology. So then they can't figure that out unless they
Until
have been exposed to all of the subjects in the beginning.
that makes sense. That really makes sense.
I have a question. So, Pacific Cascade, does it have, because the reason I'm asking is because sometimes schools do have their own tryout. So, does it already have an NSB club or, okay. And that's okay.
I
A lot of
I'm
schools actually were the first ones this year to go. So,
I'm not 100% sure, Priyanka, on that, but I did reach out to the school before we spoke while I was picking up Adira. When I reached out to the school, I told them if they can help me get a NSB team up and running, and they had, like, the school was like, can you tell me what science bowl is? And then I told, oh, it's a science competition, and if you can help me get a team of 4 students. And then the school had asked my son to reach out to a teacher, and he never did that. So
okay.
that sort of gives me an indication that there's nothing in the school.
Yeah.
But we four have already decided to reach out to the school to just let them know that, hey, we are getting these kids up and running for that, which I'm yet to do.
Okay.
So I'll keep you
Okay.
posted if there is something in the school or if we are the first one to even get in there.
Yes, and then it actually, well, kudos to all of you. I think it's starting something new. It's always work, but it's very, very fulfilling. And a lot of schools actually have gone on to compete for the first time this year. Three of my teams that were been coaching were actually they did not have it in their school. So it's absolutely doable. I'm here to help any questions if you have. Because even, I'll tell you something, even for the schools that have very well established NSB teams, it's all the parents. It's all the parents that the work that they do. The only thing the school needs to do is come November when you have to register the team. So someone from the school, either the teacher or the principal, has to, like, a form goes to them and they have to sign off. That's it.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's all led by parents. The teachers never coach, never teach anything. It's everything by the parents. Kind of sad,
perfect.
but it's the truth.
I think most comps work like that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it is what it
yeah.
is. The so 1.5 hour per week. What is the fee that we are looking at?
It's the same fee that I charge for even the other sciences. So it's 140 because you're joining as a group. You get like that group discount and everything kind of takes into effect.
So it is $140
35 per month.
per month. Okay,
Yeah,
and we would get 4 classes, right?
4 classes. Sometimes you will end up, so it's 35 class. So some months have like an extra Monday if you're coming if you're choosing a Monday. So that will add up to 35. But otherwise
That it's okay. And then if we were to start,
yeah.
when do you think is your next availability, or from when can the kids get up and running, or what is the process?
So I think the biggest challenge with I mean being a parent myself, I know it so well. I think the biggest challenge is to find a common time. So that's it. If there is a, give me 1 second.
Yeah, that's true.
So 140 per.
Sorry, go ahead, Prasad.
That was, I think, Amol.
Oh, okay. Oh, hey, Amol. Yeah. 140 a month. So I just heard 140. I didn't hear the rest. So I
So
can
that would be
just
per
add some
kid, is what I'm assuming, right?
per kid. Yes, per kid. 140 and build monthly.
Right. In terms of material, you said that you're not going to print out anything. It's going to be like a Google Docs thing for kids to read and come. Are there any books that you'll be recommending for them to practice and stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first set of books that I recommend are like very, very foundational, easy to read. And once they're done with that, when the team gets into a stage where they're like, okay, I have these particular student that needs to focus on bio, this particular student needs to focus on chemistry. That's when I get to the next level of books. But in the beginning, I want everybody to read those books, and those books are just fantastic. The second thing that I love about these books are also they're very inexpensive, unlike academic books in this country, which I hate how pricey they are.
It's just not this country.
Well, I think more so, like 125 for a book.
I was taken aback with school books back in India these times,
Oh,
and they are so expensive. Don't even, yeah, let's not go there. It's a deviation topic.
yeah. So what I do is in the beginning when I give them let me see if I can share just really quickly.
Yeah, while you do that, Annapurna, can you refresh my memory? What days did we talk about the other day? I'm completely blanked out.
Uh, Thursdays and Sundays.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So these are my notes. And the other thing that the students will hear from me, um, oh, I have to start sharing. I haven't.
Right after this call, I'm going to share all of everyone's email address so that you can literally drop everything there and we all can take a look at it.
Sure. So this is
Yeah.
like an example of if they're learning about ecology, so they get all of this. And some of these pictures are from the books that I'm saying like later on. So if I see
Mhm.
something in the book where, oh, this is relevant, I will just take a screenshot and I'll send them. Yeah, so this is kind of what they get to read. It's think of it like my notes, but it's very high level. At the same time, what I will, and this is something that they get to, um, this is something that I insist, and they get to hear the first class that they come in is taking notes. So if they have their notebook, they come in with it. Otherwise, they get a notebook. I ask them to label it. And when I'm teaching in class, they're supposed to take notes. And I repeat this every single class. Even at home, if they're reading it from a book, they are supposed to take notes. And the notes are a way for them to revise. And yeah, all of that, like I'll just mention to them in class because I'm a big believer that we have to revise. We have to read it multiple times to be able to retain information. And for example, if they're, when they're headed to the NSB regionals, 3 or 4 days before the regionals, they should not be practicing questions or reading new material. Should be revising existing material. So I tell them like your notes needs to be so extensive that it should take you 3 or 4 days to revise every one of them. So yeah, they'll hear multiple times about that. But
So,
Okay.
Priyanka, like for example, all these subjects that we mentioned in the beginning, like physical science, health science. So, what is the how deep do they go into it? Like, what is the scope of every subject?
so they do go quite deep. They go for the middle school level, they go as so the questions are the same, right? Whether or not the student is in sixth grade or eighth grade.
Mhm.
So some questions are pretty straightforward. Like it becomes a matter of, oh, this is very tricky. Do I know it? Like where is the nuclear fusion happening in the sun? So pretty straightforward. But then some questions go a little bit higher level, so they keep it at. It's a mix of eighth grade level and regular. So, for example, another, if I can think of something that is a little deeper, would be they have questions about heredity and genetics, which of course we'll cover in class, but that's something that students won't learn until eighth or ninth grade.
I see.
And in your course of curriculum, you will be covering all of these topics like within the year. I mean, if you start now before the next science bowl, mm, so will there be anything that would be left out from the prep perspective?
There will be, because it is impossible if you're thinking about like physics and chemistry and earth science and bio. There will be always topics that will be left out because one thing, and that's a great question actually, because one thing I think and I believe in that it doesn't serve them is if they just skim the surface and not go deeper. So if they have covered 60% of what's needed, I want them to be absolutely sure of that 60%. If they don't know the 40%, they'll come back and learn about it next year. And a lot of the times these things are also they build year by year. Uh,
Yeah.
but to be very honest, if I say like all these 4 subjects will be able to cover everything, every single concept or topic that gets asked in NSB, um, that's just not possible. It will absolutely overwhelm the students and they'll start to hate science. But we will cover as much as possible. The other thing that I do sometimes is, and that happens very organically. So there are 2 ways that I teach when they're coming in for NSB. I follow the curriculum. I teach them one after the other, like concepts as we'll go over cell ecology, blah, 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 everything else. But then the other thing that we do is when I practice questions with them, it's not just practice questions and leave it at that. Whenever I practice questions, I practice it like how they do it at the NSB matches. So I run it for 8 minutes. I give them a break for 2 minutes and run it for 8 minutes. So either in the break or after that, I go over the questions, the ones that they were not able to answer, they did not know. So even if those concepts fall in that, let's say that 40% of the curriculum, which we did not have time to cover, they still get they still get the knowledge of it. They still understand. So I never discuss or run questions without spending time um, as to, oh, we got 4 of these questions wrong. You guys didn't know. So let's discuss what is the correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a lot of content. So it is a lot of content. I'm not trying to dissuade you or the students. So we'll start at a pace and then we'll pick up. But um, it is a lot of fun. Like I have never seen any of my teams, at least any of my students who have gone on and participated in NSP to come back and say, "Oh, I hated it." So there was a team. There were 2 teams from international school. They were participating for the first time this year, and they did very well. They couple of things, right? So they were sixth grade, um, and like I said, it's impossible to cover every concept in just a year's time. Um, but they covered a lot. They worked really hard. They did not make it to the double elimination, but they had a ton of fun. So they're still continuing. They're training again for like they're continuing, and it's building up, right? But they had a ton of fun. Like they would come back and say like this was an amazing experience. So that I can guarantee that they'll have a lot of fun.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for this time. I
Yeah.
mean, um, I think we covered everything. Is there any availability Thursday or Sunday?
Sunday, yes. Thursday, give me 1 second. So before we do that, are there other questions? Otherwise, I'll stop recording and then we can.
I have just one question. How strong of a math, like how strong should the student be in math? Like
Um,
advanced level, or do they have to be at an advanced level?
I wouldn't say advanced level. I would say what makes or breaks a math question is the speed. The concepts everybody knows. Like the concepts are not that high. So I don't teach math as a foundation. That's another thing that I wanted to mention. I don't teach math as a like if you were just coming in for science classes, I will not teach math. But because math is a big part of NSB, so when I run those questions, when we pause and we have questions from math, or like if some of the questions are from math, I will go into it and I'll explain. Um, I have so I'll tell you some of the things that come to my mind uh, is that there is probability, there is permutation, combination. Those might be a little uh, new, but sometimes it can get tricky. But that usually gets taken care of by practice. So a lot of these concepts these students know, and it's just like practice again and again. They'll be like, oh, deck of cards, probability. I know this. I know the denominator. I know the numerator. It's by practice. Then the other things that for middle school level is series like Fibonacci or summation of a series of numbers with like regular intervals, arithmetic progression, geometric progression. That is it. But at the end of the day, it's actually that speed, how fast they can do, and that's practice is the only way. So that's that they get better with practice.
I see. And for example, for every session, would you be covering all the subjects, or we'll do session by session?
Session by session. Otherwise, it gets a little like jarring, sort of. So if we start a concept, yeah, we'll finish that way. So since it's interdisciplinary, I kind of have a path where, for example, like if I'm going into cells, I will, and then if I'm going into photosynthesis and um, um, cellular respiration, since there are equations and things like that, I would actually teach them about the periodic table and atoms and chemical reactions before that, so they understand that better. Although they are two different subjects, so to speak. But yeah, if I start a concept, so if I start, let's say, cellular respiration, and we were not able to complete, we'll complete that and then switch gears.
Priyanka, just one more question.
Sure.
Pace of the class, like you will be going as the students are picking it up, or let's say you teach the cellular respiration thing. The kids might get it and you will go to the next topic, or will you have a fixed set of topics that you would want to cover in the day, irrespective of the pace of the students?
No, I always go with the pace of the students. This again goes back to the previous question of will I be able to cover everything in from now until February? There's no way.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And if like there's always check-in inside in the class as well, right? Who has a question? Or what questions do you have? Who did not understand? Because
Got it.
there's no point in, even if one student says like I did not understand, and most of the time it's usually if one of them hasn't understood, I'm pretty sure like most of them haven't. It's just like one student is probably just raising their hand and saying it out loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will repeat. So if I had planned to finish cellular respiration and I did not end up finishing it because we got stuck and we discussed something, one of the things in detail, so be it. We'll finish next class.
Got it.
Yeah. No drinking from the hose pipe.
Got it. Okay.
And I tell them too, and I prepare them, like not in the beginning, but at some point, I will, like, as they're preparing and getting ready, I'll tell them that no matter how much you prepare, as you go into those matches, there will always be questions where you'll be dumbstruck. You'll be like, "That's Greek. I don't know what that is," and that's okay. Uh, it's impossible to know every single piece of information, and yeah. But no, good question. No, always the pace of the student guides the class.
Yeah, you can stop the recording and like whatever next you wanted to share. Yeah, please. And if there's availability for Thursday.